a computer, a file, and one name that should not exist anymore: Harley Sawyer. The mastermind behind the experiments, the man who pushed the Bigger Bodies initiative, the one responsible for turning children into mascots. Chapter 5 ended with chaos. The prototype attacked Huggy and Kissy. Kissy was stabbed. Huggy was harmed. Poppy was taken. And the player barely escaped. Then the reveal. Harley Sawyer. On a computer screen. Not a simulation, not a fragment of AI, the man himself, or at least a direct extension of him, speaking in his characteristic, measured tone. The man we all thought died in Chapter 4 had actually survived. In older documents and VHS tapes, Sawyer is always spoken about like someone who either disappeared, lost control, or died when the experiments turned violent. He was a name from the past, a figure from the shadows of Playtime Co. history. But at the end of Chapter 5, we don't just find a dusty old terminal, we unlock a secured, active computer. Harley Sawyer is still here, watching, calculating, present. To understand the significance of his return, we need to look at his history. The Bigger Bodies initiative was Harley's signature project. Normal children were taken from their homes and transformed into what he called mascots for his experiments. He notes, describe every step of these transformations with meticulous detail, showing not just brilliance, but obsession. Lines were crossed, rules were broken, and the consequences were catastrophic. Even before Chapter 5, traces of his influence lingered in the lab. Old terminals, encrypted files, and the OneNote documents hinted at unfinished projects. Harley Sawyer's presence was never fully gone. It was waiting for someone to wake it. Well, now, this is a rather interesting turn of events, is what he said at the end of the chapter. This moment confirmed that Harley Sawyer is not gone. He is not dormant. He is actively involved in the events unfolding in the lab. And everything we just experienced, the attacks, the chaos, the near deaths, was part of the environment he still controls. One key detail emerges from his presence: the negation compound. The negation compound is the only known tool capable of stopping or neutralizing the prototype. Its existence explains why Harley Sawyer has returned. The prototype is no longer a controlled experiment. It is a threat. The lab, Poppy, and everything connected to Harley's projects are at risk. Harley Sawyer may be the only one who knows how to access or utilize the negation compound. This positions him as a necessary part of the coming events. His return is not a gesture of goodwill. It is the calculated intervention of someone who needs to see the outcome unfold on their terms. The Bigger Bodies initiative, for example. This was the project where Sawyer tried to expand the limits of biology using the growth medium to create prototypes, creatures meant to be more than toys. VHS tapes, old notes, even scraps of research in the files hint at what happened. Sawyer's experiments often went sideways. Some say he disappeared after a prototype went rogue. Others claim the experiments became violent and the company had to intervene. But Chapter 5 suggests something even more complicated. It's not just about experiments gone wrong. It's about a system that Sawyer set in motion that can't be fully controlled. And that's where the growth medium and the negation formula comes in. In the experiment notes we find in Chapter 5, Sawyer documents his work on these two forces. The growth medium, as discussed, desires to grow. It doesn't follow limits imposed by the experiments, and it reacts violently when constrained. The negation formula, on the other hand, is destructive. It desires to destroy. The prototype, of course, is a product of these forces. But here's what's fascinating. When you look at how the medium interacts with the facility itself, it's easy to imagine that the goo, the poppy gel all around the plant, isn't just a hazard. It might actually be the growth medium spreading, shaping the environment, and pushing the player toward key discoveries. In other words, the note isn't just history. If the doctor himself helped spread the gel, the note almost becomes a guide, intentionally or not, to understand the chaos in the factory. Experiment 15 even references the doctor directly. Dr. Sawyer's cooperation is proving useful. If inconsequential, he's there, participating, but the true power lies with the medium. And that makes the accidental moments in Chapter 5 less accidental than they appear. The environment itself is moving you towards Sawyer's files. And not to mention, there was a power outage during the events of Chapter 5, which was between events that some people didn't really notice, but it seems that maybe Sawyer turned off the power because it seems like he is in control. Why is this important for the ending? When the prototype triggers a full wipeout, destroying systems, shutting down surveillance, altering the facility, it isn't random. This is chaos engineered by the same forces Sawyer experimented with. We see this reflected in the experiment notes. Experiment 4 describes subjects being pushed beyond control, limbs flailing, stitching unraveling. Experiment 28 talks about bonding with the medium, fingers sliding across the cold metal, a conscious interaction between subject and environment. Combine that with the real-time chaos of the facility, and suddenly the player stumbling upon the doctor on the computer isn't coincidence. It's the natural result of the growth medium acting on everything. Harley Sawyer is back, the mastermind of the lab, the architect of the Bigger Bodies Initiative, the one responsible for turning children into experiments. He is present, calculating and watching. The prototype, the negation compound, and the lab itself are all pieces of a larger puzzle that only Harley Sawyer fully understands. Chapter 6 promises to escalate everything we thought we knew. The story is far from over, and Harley Sawyer's return ensures that the next chapter will challenge every expectation.